What is your relation to Ruby?
She is my aunt. So my uncle Kevin, I'm related to by blood, and he married her.
What do you make of this whole situation, or at least when you first heard about all of what was going down and Ruby and Jody being arrested on child abuse allegations?
Gosh, there's a lot of thoughts going through my head. I was um, a little bit stunned that someone that I was related to had just been arrested and made national news. um, and I'm still kind of trying to understand how anyone in my family, whether they're directly related to me or extended, could do that to their family.
How have you been digesting this? Have you been watching any coverage? Have you been looking up things? Have you been trying to keep a distance? Like, how have you been digesting this over the last few weeks?
Well, it started with I was really trying to keep a distance with it at first, but it's kind of like a train wreck that you can't look away from. So I've been like, like on breaks at work and stuff, and in between classes, like I'll see little thumbnails and stuff pop up on my phone, and I read them when I watch them. So I've been following it over the last couple of weeks, um, and that's it's been a lot to process. um, there have been a lot of people who especially like I've made the mistake of going through like social media comments and stuff like that, and they've been making suggestions that like my family in particular and like the other people on the Frankie side of the family had some idea that any of this was going on, and that's been a little hard to read because we haven't really seen Ruby for like 10 years, and so it was infuriating reading some of those things because it's like we have like nothing to do with her really. But yet you somehow thought that we had something, like we knew what was going on.
Well, Matthew, is that the case? Have you not seen Ruby in a long time? When do you think the last time you saw her was?
The last time, so we have never like met for really long periods of time. The last time I saw her specifically was, I think, 2 years ago, when I had lunch with my cousin Sherry, who I would like to add never spoke to me about any of this and never made any indication that anything was going on. And I really wish that she would have. Um, but she and I were having lunch, and Kevin and Ruby tagged along as well as my parents. And so we sat around for a couple hours and then kind of just parted ways for the rest of the year, pretty much.
Have you talked to Sherry or Chad or any of your other kind of cousins about any of this in the last few weeks since all of this came out?
No, I reached out to Sherry. I think the day after Ruby was arrested and like the articles started coming out, I messaged her and said, "Hey, what's going on? Are you okay? Is there something I can do to help?" And she has responded to me since. Um, so I'm not really sure what's going on there, but I hope to hear from him soon.
What is the hardest part about all of this been for you? Has it been the messages towards your family? Has it been those perceptions? I mean, what have been the difficulties that have come with all of this for you as I'd say, distant family member to Ruby in this situation?
Um, yeah, that's a good point. I I think a lot of that perception has kind of been the difficult part for me. Obviously I'm really concerned about um, Russell and Eve. Because I've been thinking back on um, memories where like we have seen them at like Christmas family reunions and stuff. I'm trying to think like, was there anything that I could have seen that could have suggested anything like that was going on? But a lot of those misconceptions and stuff have been kind of hard to deal with just because it's now people are recognizing my name now around school and work, and so I'm kind of a little nervous about introducing myself because like I don't really have any affiliation with them. um, so that's and that's part of why I'm talking to you today, and why I talked to Inside Edition is because I want to clear the air on that.
Is there anything else you'd like to clear the air on, or just anything you've seen that you felt was very odd or strange? I mean, it's a good place to do it because we'll definitely put this out there in long form. So is there anything that you would like to share on behalf of perceptions of Ruby or perceptions of extended family or this whole situation?
Well, I would like to say that as far as I'm aware, the Frankie side of the family has had limited, like really limited contact with Ruby and Kevin. My family specifically, we had kind of a falling out around when I was born. Ruby was really critical of my mom when one of my siblings was going through cancer, and she obviously wasn't, she didn't receive that very well, and so that kind of distanced us a bit. And I think some of that kind of stuff also distanced them from some of the other Frankies as well. That and Kevin, to my understanding, not really reaching out to them particularly often either. So I can't speak for Ruby's side of the family, because I've never met them before. I don't know if anyone else in my family or the Frankie side of the family. I think my dad and some of his brothers probably have. Well, I mean, for anyone who thinks that what Ruby did was typical, Mormon behavior, it's not. Uh, that's something I've seen circulating around on the internet. That's, as someone who was a member, that's not even something that the church would even consider. And I don't know why any church would. She, oh gosh, yeah, I'm just remembering I read that article recently about the honey peppers and stuff that they found. That was awesome. I don't know if you've seen that.
To go off of that, have you ever heard of Jody Hildebrandt before all of this?
I didn't know who she was before she met Ruby. We had kind of heard through the grapevine. I think like my Aunt Eileen or somebody brought it up on their family group chat, when Ruby and them started connections. We were suspicious of Jody. We didn't really know anything about like her reputation, and kind of her background and things.
What are your general thoughts about where things stand today, almost a month after the arrest?
I still am kind of hoping that the book gets thrown at both of them, especially Jody, because hearing like some of the things that she had with some of her previous clients about breaking like doctor-patient confidentiality and stuff like that, it's like she shouldn't have a license anymore. And for starting this group with my aunt that is really cultish from the sounds of it, I think she should get put away for a long time. As far as my aunt, I think she definitely needs to do time. I don't know what the future will hold for her, if this was maybe just her being led down the wrong path, but she needs to not be in public anymore. And as sad as I am to say it, I think Kevin should be arrested too. Me and my dad have been having a hard time believing that he had zero contact with his family, that he had no idea that, Ruby would leave them for long stretches of time. Because, he at least had to have stayed in contact with Sherry, because he was part of overseeing her, like her car and her student stuff at BYU. And so some of that had to have made its way through. So at the very least, I think he should be brought up on neglect charges because that's not acceptable.